After recently covering the remake of Wes Craven's classic horror movie, The Hills Have Eyes, I thought it would only be fitting to go back and cover the 2009 remake of his first foray into the world of horror, The Last House on the Left. Because while on the surface, they appear to be completely different entities, on further inspection, they share a lot more similarities than you might initially think. But before we jump into that, I'd like to tell you about today's sponsor. I know on this channel, we all share a passion for watching movies, but if you're anything like me, you might also share the passion for creating. So if you're thinking about editing your own videos, but looking for a popular and easy to use editing software, today's sponsor, Wondershare Filmora, is a great fit for that. Wondershare Filmora is perfect for both beginners and experienced editors, including preset templates like effects, filters, transitions, and even tons of royalty-free music, so you can avoid those annoying copyright claims. Filmora just released the newest version 10.5, including new features like auto reframe, AR stickers, audio effects, and film stock effects library integration, and add-on AI portrait. Let me give you a quick demonstration of how it works and how easy it is to use. Just import and drag and drop your click onto the editing track, then you can use all of the interesting features like the AR stickers, various different audio effects that can all be done within Filmora, and an incredibly useful feature, film stock effects library integration, which lets you browse more than 20,000 effects on film stock without having to leave Filmora. If you want to get into content creation but don't know where to start, I definitely recommend to download Wondershare Filmora 10 in the description below to try it out for free. The movie begins by introducing us to the main antagonists of the film. There's this guy called Krug being transported by two police officers to prison, but as they're at a stop waiting for a train to pass, the cop car is rammed in the side by a truck. Krug's brother Francis and girlfriend Sadie exit the truck, and the movie really wants you to know that these are bad guys, as at the first sign of life, they execute one of the cops without an ounce of hesitation. And in a demonstration of how truly evil the characters are, they don't just shoot the second cop in the head like they did the other one. Instead, Krug ties a seatbelt around the officer's neck and violently strangles him to death while forcing him to stare at a picture of his kids. Because he's evil and, well, I guess that's what evil people do. We're then introduced to the main protagonists of the film, the Collingwood family. The daughter Mary, who we learn is a strong swimmer, her mother, and her father John, who is a doctor. The family are leaving for a vacation, where they're heading out to a family-owned lakeside house that happens to conveniently be in the middle of nowhere. After arriving, the daughter Mary takes a dip in the lake, and we get this very unnecessary scene of her showering and getting changed. Now, there's nothing wrong of a scene of someone showering, but it literally serves no purpose to the story whatsoever, apart from showing us that the shower rail is loose, while clearly just an excuse to see the naked silhouette of this girl bend over, and to get close-up shots of her in her underwear. But isn't this character meant to only be 17 years old? Yeah, that's a bit weird. After arriving at her family vacation, Mary decides to leave said family vacation almost immediately and drive into town to meet her friend Paige. After meeting up with Paige and talking to her while she works behind the counter at a store, the pair meet this shy, quiet guy named Justin. In exchange for Paige allowing Justin to buy cigarettes without ID, he offers the pair some weed that he has back at his motel. And because going to some sketchy motel with some strange guy you've just met to get drugs is always a good idea, the pair go with him. Mary waits outside in the car for a while, but after getting jump scared by this random maid, for no other reason than the filmmakers just wanting to use a terrible meaningless jump scare, she decides to go in and check on them, to discover Paige essentially has just ditched her and started smoking with this random guy. The trio hang out and smoke for a while, when all of a sudden, Justin's family walks through the door. The three people who murdered those police officers in the beginning, and we learn that Justin is Krug's son. Now, I'm no expert, but after your dad, his girlfriend, and your uncle violently murder two police officers, it's probably not the smartest idea to bring two random people back to where you're hiding and get stoned. The family are obviously on the run and are supposed to be laying low. You know, the type of situation where you really shouldn't be bringing two random girls back to your room. Krug punches Justin in the stomach, 1 for having really terrible decision-making skills, and 2 after saying that his face is plastered all over the newspapers. And now that the girls have seen his face, there's no way there's going to be a happy ending for them. They drive the girls out into the woods to presumably deal with them, but as they're driving, Mary takes the car's cigarette lighter and burns Sadie with it, causing one big panic in the car as she's trying to climb over her to jump out of the door, but it ends with the car veering off the road and smashing into multiple trees. Paige takes the opportunity to make a run for it, and after a brief moment of freedom, where she very nearly makes it to safety, she takes a clothesline to the face and is brought right back to the horrific horrors that await her. We already knew that the family dynamic between Krug and Justin was already kind of weird, but it gets even weirder when Krug tries to force Justin to sexually assault Mary. Disgusted by what's occurring, Justin resists and Paige speaks up to call Krug pathetic. After being insulted by this harmless teenage girl, he responds by walking over to Paige, pulling out a pocket knife and stabbing her twice in the gut as Francis comes up from behind and does the same thing. Krug being annoyed that his son won't, quote, become a man, he decides to brutally and savagely do it himself, in a long, drawn-out horrific scene where Mary begs and pleads with him to stop, but all that she can do is look ahead at her friend who is slowly bleeding to death in front of her. All the while, Justin is sitting there frozen in place, terrified to do anything to help this girl, probably suffering with the knowledge that all of this is his fault, and that he probably should have just skipped that pack of cigarettes. Because smoking kills. When Krug finally stops with the horrific attack, Mary takes the opportunity to hit him with a well-deserved rock to the face, and she makes a run for it. She makes it to the lake and begins to swim as fast as she can as they begin to fire multiple shots at her, and with each passing moment, she is getting further and further away from them, until finally, one of the shots hits its target, and the trio turn around and leave her, believing that she's dead. With a totaled car and now in the middle of a storm, the psychotic murderous family knocks on the door of a house that they've come across. It's Mary's vacation home. After explaining that there's been an accident, the family are welcomed into their home by the good-hearted pair who believe that they're doing the decent thing by giving them shelter, hot coffee, and even tending to their wounds. After talking for a while, they're offered to stay in the guest house overnight, but before they leave, Justin spots a picture of Mary on the fridge and realizes that these are her parents. With him already finding it incredibly hard to deal with what's occurred, he almost pukes in the bathroom and decides not to tell his family this information. Instead, he leaves Mary's necklace on the kitchen counter after his father threw it at him in the middle of the attack, perhaps as a way to deal with his guilt, hoping that they'll be caught and punished for what they did. He couldn't do the right thing then, but he's going to try and do it now. After the family leave for the guest house, we see that they didn't succeed in killing Mary, and that she swam all the way back to the house and crawled to the door, where she is then discovered bloody and beaten half to death by her parents. John realizes that she's been shot and sexually assaulted, so his doctor instincts kick in and he begins to save her life by cauterizing the wound and draining the blood out of her lung so that she can breathe. But while John's doing this, Emma discovers the necklace in the kitchen, and knowing full well that Mary left with it, she realizes that the only way for it to get there is if one of the family members left it there. With no car, John goes to the garage to look for the boat keys, and when he's gone, Francis returns to the house for a beer. After Emma attempts to keep her cool and stall Francis, he walks into the living room and is stunned to be staring directly at Mary as she stares right back at him. But before he can even process what he's seeing, Emma hits him over the head with a wine bottle and stabs him in the chest with a knife. John returns to the house and discovers that the pair are fighting for their lives, and after setting Francis's broken nose earlier, he grabs it and re-breaks it before attempting to drown him in the kitchen sink. But after Francis pulls out the sink plug, foiling the attempted drowning, John responds by turning on the garbage disposal unit, absolutely mangling his hand in the process as he screams out in agony for help, mirroring Mary's screams for help as she's being brutally and savagely assaulted. But as no help came for her, no help is coming for him, and John ends it by caving the back of his head in with the pointy side of a hammer. I guess he won't be getting that beer after all. With the power now out due to the ongoing storm and no way to contact the outside world, determined to end this to ensure the safety of their daughter, they sneak into the guest house to do something about the others. Kill them, probably. They spot Justin sitting on the floor with a gun in his hand before he willingly gives it to John. It seems like he himself has been toying with the idea of killing his family for what they've done. Sadie wakes up after hearing the gun load, before John immediately shoots her in the shoulder, and Krug dives out of the window to leave his girlfriend to die alone, because that's just the kind of guy that he is. They end up in the bathroom, and after a brief struggle with Justin and John versus Sadie, Justin gets knocked unconscious, there's that loose shower rail again, and Emma finishes her off by shooting her directly in the eye, leaving only Krug as the final threat. John returns to the house, and after a tense back and forth of words, the pair eventually get into an altercation. After a long, drawn-out, exhausting fight, Krug manages to finally get the upper hand on John, but instead of just dealing the final blow, killing the man and leaving, Krug has to once again prove to the audience just how evil he really is, by taunting John with what he did to his daughter. Right before he kills him, Justin appears from behind, pointing a gun at the back of his skull. Justin pulls the trigger while aimed at his chest, but the gun is empty, resulting in Krug stabbing his own son in the gut with a fire poker. But once again, he likes to draw out his murders and subject his victims to pointless monologues instead of just getting it over with, giving Emma the perfect opportunity to hit him with a fire extinguisher, where both of the parents then proceed to brutally beat him unconscious. They don't just beat the man to death or turn him into the authorities or anything like that. No, they've got something quite spectacular planned for him. Krug wakes up on a table, now paralyzed from the neck down, and unable to move, because John, being a doctor, didn't have any tape or rope, so decided that the next logical step is clearly paralysis. He produces a jerry-rigged microwave with no door attached, places Krug's head inside, and presses the on button. After a while of cooking his brains from the inside out, and more than likely accidentally exposing himself to a load of radiation without there being a door on that thing, if that's how microwaves work, eventually his head explodes into a pulp of blood and brain matter, like a bowl of soup that's been left in the microwave for too long. Before the movie then comes to an end, with John, Emma, Mary and Justin all riding away on a boat. It's nice that the family managed to get revenge and save their daughter in the process, but unless the Collingwoods did an excellent job of disposing of Krug's body and cleaning up the scene, I kinda have the feeling that John's probably going to go down for liquefying this man's head. The other two, yeah, you could probably spin that as self-defense. But when the authorities discover a man with a microwave-souped head, you're probably gonna have a hard time explaining that one. But when it comes to these sort of movies, it's clearly not intended to have you thinking about those sorts of things. It's a movie designed to put you through the emotional ringer. It takes this sweet, innocent 17-year-old girl and horrifically violates her right before your eyes. You can see the absolute horror that this girl is forced to endure as her friend is murdered in front of her in an attempt to make you really despise the main antagonists. So when it eventually comes back around for them, and it's time for the bad guys to face their comeuppance, it's meant to make it feel ever so much more satisfying when they finally reach their grisly demise. And in that little self-contained context, the movie perfectly succeeds in conveying those sorts of emotions to the viewer. It almost feels as if it's supposed to bring out the worst in the human psyche. It makes you feel despair, sadness, sorrow and anger, followed by a tense build-up that culminates into excitement and happiness, followed by serenity as you witness a human being taking the life of a fellow human. And no matter how horrific that person is that life belongs to, it's quite a disturbing and morbid way to look at it. Before we wrap things up, I'd like to give a big shout out to my patrons. With YouTube not being so fond of the type of content I put out, it's people like my patrons that help keep this series alive. So a big thank you to Dom, Bort, Hunters263, Caleb Barnaby, Rebecca Pitts, Benz, Total Drama Rebooted, A Dandy in Space, Martin Brannan, Natasha Twyman, Rin and Whiskey, Jarrett C. Bees, Nicholas, Pascal Mathis, John, Alex X. Jackson, Tajvia Sandhu, Chucky Dodd, Amy Denver, and Victor Kartalov. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. Your contributions towards the channel does far more than I think you realize, so thank you. Also, the channel's got a Discord, so if you'd like to discuss this movie, or other movies in general with like-minded people, there's a place where you can come together and do just that. And if you'd like to leave a recommendation for the series, that'd be the best place to do it. So once again, thank you so much to my patrons, and thank you to everyone else for watching.